Ini dari Unhas juga?
Iya.
Sama mbaknya juga?
Saya berdua dari Unhas.
Unhas?
Iya, saya dari Kedutaan Australia.
Dari mana?
Kedutaan Australia.
Dari asli Indonesia?
Iya lah. Kerja doang.
Di Jakarta?
Di Jakarta.
Yang dekat itu ya, SD itu ya?
Bukan, di
Gelora Bung Karno?
Kuningan.
Kuningan? Kunjungan ke sana kemarin? Ke kedutaan juga kan?
Iya, tapi saya dari
Dibagi ya?
di sini.
Amaran.
Mr. Prime Minister, we would like to mark your welcome to this university by just signing this. Thank you. Thank you very much. Excuse me, do you want us to wear mask here? We are almost zero COVID here.
Yes. I had COVID during the election campaign, so I'm safe.
You said, I have 4 vaccines already. So. And I got one also get infected, so we are the same. Shall we start now?
Sure.
Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very, very good morning. It is such an honor to welcome again His Excellency, Prime Minister of Australia, the Honorable Anthony Albanese. Together with us, we also have Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Penny Wong. Also, the Ministry of Industry and Science, the Honorable Ed Hussey. Thank you. And the Ministry for Trade and Tourism, the Honorable Don Farrell. With us, we also have Federal Member for Solomon, Mr. Luke Gosling. And also our Indonesian ambassador, Australian ambassador for Indonesia, Ms. Penny Williams. And I'd like to also greet my Australian Consulate General in Makassar, Ibu Bronwyn Robbins. Sorry to call you Ibu because you've been here for a while, so. And of course, all other delegation from Australian government. And with us here also, we have some UNHAS leaders and Australian alumni from various institutions around Makassar. Thank you all again for coming to Hasanuddin University. Ladies and gentlemen, this province of South Sulawesi and Australia share a deep historical link which began more than 200 years ago with the project of Makassar seafarers to the northern Australia to find sea cucumber. In Bahasa we call tripang. The relationship have been recognized as the first contact between the Australian First Nation people with the people outside Australia. This interaction between the Makassar, which is the name of the city, and the Australian indigenous have created not only economic contact, but also exchange in culture, social, and even share some of the word in language, which is in local language. For example, lepa-lepa, which is, I know when I was small, which is, they call it for the small boat. Also, our friends from the Aborigine call lepa-lepa. So again, today, we will continue and celebrate the deep educational and people-to-people links between this province, between this city, between us and our neighbor, Australia. I was a privilege to have studied at the James Cook University in one of the best universities in marine science in the world. And having finished my PhD, I came back to Indonesia and really serving my country using the knowledge, the skill that I had in Australia. And throughout my career, the contribution of that skill that I got in Australia has actually also contributed to my career and also serve my nation, and I think also contribute why I'm standing up here now as a rector. And this room, there are many other people have done the same. And we are delighted to be able to introduce some of them to you today from Prof. Hamdan Johannes. He's a rector of Alauddin Islamic State University. And also Mr. Kausa Imam Karana, head of Bank Indonesia for South Sulawesi. The Australian Alumni Association has so many talented people. I didn't mention all of them today. And we all come back having studied in Australia to serve and develop our future career and our future leaders in Indonesia. So I'm also proud as a rector of Hasanuddin University to let you know that around 150 lecture and staff actually and Australian alumni here at Hasanuddin University. His Excellency Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, our university has enjoyed so much a strong research and study collaboration partnership with many Australian world-class universities, including Monash, Griffith, Melbourne, Sydney, Lathrop, University of Western Australia, Charles Darwin, University of Queensland, James Cook University, and many others. Sorry if I didn't mention all of them. Maybe some of you came from that university. Sorry, we'll mention later. We have some project, Mr. Prime Minister, including we have project we call PAIR, Partnership for Australian-Indonesian Research through Australian Indonesian Center. We have RISE project and many other projects between Indonesia and Australia. This actually is not only beneficial to both countries, for Indonesia and Australia, but it is indeed has produced many top science in the world. For example, Hasanuddin University and Griffith University has done a research and discovered one of the oldest cave painting in the world, with an age is 45,500 years ago. One of the oldest actually modern society creation, and even much older than the one that we had in Europe. In Europe. So we also have an ongoing collaboration, of course, on training and education, such as double degree programs, exchange student, exchange staff. I'm, as a rector, committed, especially with the Prime Minister here and all the honorable delegation, to increase these numbers for Australian relationship in the near future. Since UNHAS is located in East Indonesia, we actually would like also to encourage to use this as a proxy to reach out university in the Pacific. That's why after being inaugurated last month, I called my college actually to revitalize our center, what we call Center for South Pacific Study. And it happened that you decided to come here, which is coincident. So I do hope that through this center, we will be strengthening collaboration with university around the South Pacific to be able to tackle our problems. We share problems on climate change, on sustainable development goals, and many others. So again, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good momentum for all of us to move forward together, working more closely as a good neighbors in tackling this problem in the Asia-Pacific region. We also support the ongoing Indonesian-Australian Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, because in Bahasa, there is a saying that saudara, or we believe the language expressed in Bahasa, tetangga adalah keluarga terdekat. which means our neighbor is our closest family. Lastly, I would like to again humbly express my deep gratitude for all of you, especially the Prime Minister. It is like a dream for me that you are here. And so I wish you all the best for your leadership and looking forward to seeing more positive and mutual collaboration between Indonesia and Australia in the near future. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'd like to invite His Excellency Prime Minister, the Honorable Anthony Albanese. Time is yours, sir. I need to change the microphone.
Thank you very much, sir. And can I acknowledge all of the distinguished guests who are here, but particularly to acknowledge the alumni who are here as well today. This is a very special occasion, and it's a great honour for me to be with you here at Hasanuddin University. After I was elected the leader of the Australian Labor Party in 2019, the first international visit I made was right here to Indonesia. And I'm very pleased to be returning here today as the Australian Prime Minister just 2 weeks after I was sworn into that position. It is indeed so good to be back. This is my 8th visit to Indonesia. And every time I have returned to Indonesia, I've been reminded of the warmth of your welcome. I arrived in somewhat different circumstances this time, of course, but even if my personal situation has changed, your warmth has certainly not. Thank you all for making me and my delegation so very welcome here this morning. I've been out cycling with your President, you might have seen. I was both honoured and touched that the President suggested a bike ride through the Bogor Palace Gardens. It was such an enjoyable way to see the magnificent grounds there, but it was also a great pleasure to engage with the President in such a personal one-on-one way yesterday. And it will be a memory that I cherish for the rest of my life. I've also had the pleasure of meeting many in your business community, and including at a major dinner that we held in Jakarta just last night. They play such an essential role in the continuing vitality of our friendship. I plan to return to Indonesia as Prime Minister often because of the importance of this diverse and beautiful country. As a neighbour, as a friend, as a matter of priority. As we speak of the friendship between our two nations, it is particularly fitting to be here in Makassar. And I asked when we were organising this visit, just a short time ago, that Makassar would be an appropriate place for me to visit, because centuries ago the sea route between here and northern Australia was alive with a flourishing trade. Each December, the Yolngu people of Arnhem Land would look to the sea, waiting for the horizon to be filled with the sail of Macassan vessels. The Yolngu immortalised those boats in their art. You can find them there in Arnhem Land, the place where the Gama Festival is held each year. The major cultural festival for First Nations people in Australia. They're painted on their rock, on their bark, their sails forever full with the wind that brought them across the sea. The long relationship between the Macassan seafarers and First Nations people of Australia was built around trade. But what was most striking was that it was built on mutual respect, a relationship of equals. It laid down the foundation stone for the people-to-people contact that is at the very heart of Australia's relationship with the people of Indonesia. The Macassan fishers were the first Muslims to visit Australia, writing the first chapter in the story of all that Muslim people have contributed to our nation. Today, there are now over 600,000 Muslims in Australia, and they are a vital and integral part of the rich mosaic of Australian society. They have helped build our nation and are a valued and respected part of the Australian family. And I'm delighted that my new ministry includes 2 Muslim Australians, the first time. I brought one of them with me. Our industry minister, his family came from Bosnia in the 1960s, the first Muslim to serve in an Australian cabinet, but won't be the last. Dr. Anne Ali was born in Egypt. She represents a Western Australian electorate in Perth. She grew up in Australia and then she went to Egypt to study at university before coming home to Australia again. Like Ed, a very distinguished Australian. She has worked at the United Nations. She is an expert in international security issues. Both of them held the Quran as they were sworn in as ministers last week. They were both elected to Parliament from diverse communities, one in Sydney, in Ed's case, in Anne's case in Perth. But a significant point to make here about the nature of Australian society is that for both of them, the Muslim population in their electorates is a very small minority. They receive support from across the Australian community. I take this as really heartening confirmation that we are maturing as a nation. This is the enduring value of Australian multiculturalism and the great spectrum of Australia's religious and cultural diversity. As I said in my first speech to the Parliament, multiculturalism provides Australia with a unique opportunity to be a microcosm for the world, to show that cultural diversity and respect can lead to a more peaceful, equitable and fulfilling life for all. Our embrace of multiculturalism speaks of our deepening sense of ourselves as a nation, which itself goes hand in hand with how we see and project our place in the world. We are part of the most dynamic region in the world, and I see a great opportunity to working closely with our neighbours. It was another Labor Prime Minister, my friend Paul Keating, who once said that the change that was sought was Australia finding security in Asia, not from Asia, a very important distinction. And that holds true for the government that I lead on the question of regional security and the challenge of global climate change. I am ambitious for what Australia can achieve as we confront the challenge of climate change, and I am also ambitious about what we can achieve with our friends and our partners, and I discussed these issues intensely with President Widodo yesterday. Late last year, I put forward my blueprint for tackling climate change. It is a comprehensive response to climate change with economic growth at its heart. It's one that understands that by tackling what is an environmental challenge, we can actually grow jobs and grow our economy in a sustainable way. One of the first steps we will take is to rewire our energy grid so that we can integrate more renewables into our power system. It will ensure that renewables are some 82% of the national energy market by 2030. Our plan will reduce Australia's emissions by 43% by 2030 and ensure we're on track for net zero by 2050. It will attract $52 billion of private sector investment just over those few coming years and will generate 604,000 new jobs by 2030. In doing so, we will provide the certainty and clarity that businesses and investors need. My government sees enormous potential in green hydrogen and will look for opportunities to back green hydrogen projects. For example, in our island state of Tasmania, we will help kick-start a project using solar panels to produce green hydrogen on a commercial scale and eventually create a green hydrogen export market. This is the sort of vision that we can seize, and we can seize it right now. Sun Cable is another great example of Australia continuing to step up as a reliable, clean energy provider for the region. When completed, it will be a 4,500 kilometre pipeline transporting some of Australia's abundant solar energy from Northern Territory to Singapore. And we know that there will be opportunities in other countries, including Indonesia, in the future arising from that. Climate change is, of course, a global problem, and that requires a global solution. I want better access to affordable, reliable and secure clean energy right across our region as we move toward a net zero world together. And that is why my government will expand our cooperation with Indonesia on climate change, including through our commitment to establish a new climate and infrastructure partnership. We will work together with Jakarta to build a resilient, clean energy sector and unlock green trade and investment opportunities, because both of our countries recognise that climate change is not only a problem to be solved, but presents opportunities for us to embrace, opportunities particularly to benefit the younger generations who I see here at this university today. As we face the challenges of the present and anticipate the future, what must underpin all of our efforts is education. Education is the biggest and most powerful weapon we have against disadvantage. Education is the strongest foundation on which we can build the mutual respect that characterises the relationship between our nations. And that is the spirit that is embodied here at Hasanuddin University. This great seat of learning is one with strong ties to Australia, with a long record of cooperation with Australian universities, including Monash, Griffith, Melbourne, La Trobe, and my old alma mater of Sydney University. I'm especially pleased that the person in charge of guiding that spirit is your rector, Professor Jamaluddin Jompa, or JJ. JJ, as he's known. I'm Albo, JJ. It's a lot easier than trying to pronounce Albanese. I suspect JJ's easier as well. Your research experience with coral reef biology and your work with coastal communities have taken on even greater significance as the world faces the challenge of dealing with climate change, as does your role as advisor to your nation's Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. So it is a source of particular pride that Professor Jompa obtained his doctoral degree from James Cook University in Queensland. Australia has long been a supporter of your institution, whether it was through early infrastructure support or the provision of scholarships. The depth of engagement between our first-class universities and this institution is evident in the remarkable 152 Australian alumni on your teaching staff. 152. So it's heartening that Australia's part in the story of this great university gets to continue in a way through the story of your rector. It is worth reiterating what his old university has said about JJ, and I don't want to embarrass you, but I will quote them. Professor Jompa shows exemplary leadership across Indonesia's scientific community, engaging with policymakers and those who implement programs by brokering knowledge between science and strategy. His leadership and care is ensuring that the upcoming generations of Indonesian scientists have the opportunities, the platform and the capabilities to drive Indonesia's economic, social and environmental future. A big endorsement indeed. The university makes a note of Professor Jompa's instinct to bring people together, an instinct that manifests itself in his passion for Australian-Indonesian relations. Now, I've spoken a lot in the past couple of years about the importance of bringing people together and of rejecting powers that seek to divide people. That is the spirit that can drive all of us and help to shape a better future. That desire to come together and find common ground, lighting the path ahead of us with the knowledge we already have and the burning curiosity to add to it. Building our nations and making them stronger by strengthening our education systems and making the most of our education institutions' capacity to foster people-to-people links, those very personal connections that lie at the heart of every international relationship. We see it in the 18,000 Indonesian students who choose to study in Australia each year, a choice that I believe ultimately contributes to both of our nations. We will enhance it by supporting the vital work carried out with the Australian Consortium for In-Country Indonesia Studies, which will provide the support to make it possible for more Australians to study in Indonesia. Every one of these steps can bring us closer together in the most positive and lasting way. In a time when we've become used to short-term political thinking to deal with an ever-shrinking news cycle, this is long-term vision. And in that spirit, yesterday I announced 10 new scholarships for Indonesians to undertake master's or PhD studies in Australia in areas that promote Indonesia's G20 priorities. Specifically, these students will research global health architecture, sustainable energy and digital transformation, Indonesia's G20 priorities. The research they will undertake will contribute to Indonesia's economy and educational sector and continue to create bonds between our nations. In conclusion, can I say that I believe that unless we shape the future will shape us. I know that we can face the future with enormous confidence, every one of its challenges and every one of its opportunities. Everything we need to turn us into shapers of the future is right here, as long as we are ready and willing to learn. Like the wind that filled the sails of those Macassan boats all those years ago, education can fill us and drive us forward towards the bright horizon and the bigger world of opportunities that is there waiting for us to seize those opportunities. Let's embark on the journey together. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Gantung dulu latarnya nih. Nah, kembali. Kembali dulu anu, latar dulu karena makam, masuk makam. Yang dulu ini kan layar kerjanya kita ngerok. Keluar. Kemudian dalam, makam dulu, turun ke bawah. Iya.
Sí.